In our time, the full-time laborer finds himself in a paradox. He gives the better portion of his life to work, yet even the most frugal life cannot be sustained by his wages. Whether the occupation be humble or esteemed, the principle remains. The worker sustains society through labor and taxation, yet society denies him the basic security of land, property, and dignified subsistence. This condition reveals a breach in justice. A man who contributes to the preservation of the community must have guaranteed to him the means to live within it. To deny this is to reduce him to a subject of extortion rather than a participant in society. Property rights, particularly land ownership, rest upon a philosophical contradiction. How can a government grant title or deed to land which it does not and cannot truly own? Who, at the dawn of private property, was the rightful seller of the earth? At the root, the claim to ownership emerges not from natural justice, but from inequality and force. The concept of absolute land ownership is akin to a master charging his slave to live upon the very soil both inhabit. Historically, slaves were at least housed and fed by their masters. The modern wage laborer, however, is forced to provide these essentials himself, while being denied the very land and resources he helps sustain. Land, by its very nature, belongs first to all men in common. It is a birthright, bestowed not by government, but by nature or providence. The notion of exclusive ownership becomes legitimate only when it arises through voluntary consent among equals, where one freely cedes claim in return for another benefit. Absent such consent, ownership is a fiction maintained by coercion. More just is the principle of fair use. The one who cultivates, develops, and sustains land has a rightful claim to its fruits, though not to the exclusion of the common good. The strength of society is inseparable from the strength of its most intimate bonds. The family and the circle of friendship are the first schools of justice, loyalty, and duty. If these relationships fall into disorder, society itself becomes unstable, for the smallest parts mirror the whole. Society may be understood as a body, composed of many members, yet united in one life. In this sense, man himself, Anthropos or Adam, is a single organism. When one member suffers injustice or deprivation, the injury does not remain isolated. Like a cancer cell spreading through the flesh, corruption in the individual or the family extends outward until the whole organism becomes diseased. There exists a higher law, eternal and unerring, which is the measure of all justice. This divine law is written not on parchment, but in the very nature of reality. By contrast, man's written laws shift in circumstance, changing like the wind, too often serving power rather than justice. The erosion of liberty almost always proceeds under the pretext of necessity, a state of emergency. Yet emergencies pass, while the powers claimed in their name remain. Thus, freedom is consumed not in sudden destruction, but in gradual corrosion. Everyone is a sovereign cell in the body of mankind. To disenfranchise one, or to strip a group of their natural rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, is to wound the whole. When the majority remains silent in the face of such injustice, tyranny takes root and metastasizes. Injustice tolerated against a few becomes injustice accepted against all. Liberty dies not when the tyrant seizes power, but when the people no longer defend one another's freedom. The American Republic was founded upon the principle that sovereignty originates in the individual. Government derives its legitimacy not from divine right nor self-creation, but from the consent of sovereign individuals who compose it. When government ceases to serve this purpose, when it becomes predatory, extractive, and destructive, it forfeits its legitimacy. A contract broken by one party is no longer binding upon the other. If the state renders life unaffordable, denies land to the worker, and burdens him with laws enforced by threats, it has abandoned its role as protector and become an autophagic cancer, consuming its own host. The just order must return to first principles. The sovereignty of the individual as the foundation of political life. The common right to land as the basis of subsistence and dignity. The recognition that businesses and governments alike hold obligations not merely to profit or perpetuation, but to the community that sustains them. Without equality and fundamental rights, society divides into castes of privilege and subjugation. A house so divided cannot stand. For unity to exist, there must be clear recognition of individual sovereignty and fair access to the means of life. The worker, as contributor and sustainer of society, must have the right to the land upon which he lives. If the government will not uphold this right, then it is the government, not the people, who have broken the covenant, and what is void in justice cannot bind in law.